You are listening to Radio Long Island City, recorded at our studios near Hell Gate, 9 kilometers north of the Harbor Hill Moraine. And now, the Observatory. The Observatory, Thursday the 18th of September 2025. It is 90 days after the summer solstice. It is 4 days before the fall equinox. By the French Republican calendar, it is the day of La Fête du Génie, the celebration of talent. It is the second day of the Saint-Culotide, anticipating the beginning of the new year at the equinox. The sun rises today at 6:40 a.m. Solar noon takes place today at 12:50 p.m. The sun sets today at 6:59 p.m. Civil twilight ends at 7:26 p.m., and nautical twilight ends at 7:59 p.m. The length of daytime today is 2 minutes, 40 seconds shorter than yesterday. The moon is in its waning crescent phase and is 10% full at midday. The new moon will arrive on Sunday, the 21st of September. These are the predicted tides today for Horns Hook. In the wee hours, low tide, 3:28 a.m., 15 centimeters. In the morning, high tide, 9:39 a.m., 1 meter 46. In the afternoon, low tide, 2:43 p.m., 30 centimeters. At night, high tide, 9:50 p.m., 1 meter 55. In our shared realm of plants and animals, a large adult rat gambols across the back of the garden on a sunny afternoon. He's having a good day, and he takes his time. What is one to do? Rats provoke such revulsion and represent real dangers to people, especially if they find their way into the house. And yet, watching the squirrels and possums and even raccoons come by to visit, perhaps we can make room for the occasional rat. It seemed so at home in the natural world, under the shade of the eastern white pine. Perhaps our listeners will disagree. Commemorations. On this day in 1793, George Washington laid the cornerstone of the United States Capitol building in the new city that would be named after him. On this day in 1837, Charles Louis Tiffany and Teddy Young founded Tiffany & Young, a stationery and fancy goods emporium. Their new shop was at 259 Broadway in Manhattan. It would become Tiffany & Company in 1853, when Charles Tiffany took sole proprietorship and made fine jewelry the central focus of the store. A somber anniversary. On this day in 1850, Congress passed the Fugitive Slave Act. It was part of the Great Compromise of 1850 between the slaving states and the northern free soilers. The act required that slaves who escaped be returned to their enslavers, wherever they were in the country. Officials and citizens of free states were compelled to enforce the act, which they found abhorrent. It hardened the divide over slavery and was one step toward the coming Civil War. On this day in 1899, the U.S. Copyright Office granted Scott Joplin copyright for the Maple Leaf Rag, his most famous ragtime composition. Joplin is, of course, buried in St. Michael's Cemetery here in Astoria. On this day in 1960, Fidel Castro arrived in New York City. He was leading the Cuban delegation to the United Nations that year. Rather than stay at a swanky hotel in Midtown, he and his entourage decided to stay at the Teresa Hotel in Harlem, a gesture which highlighted the class-based and racial hierarchies in the United States. During his stay at the Teresa Hotel, Castro met with Malcolm X and the poet Langston Hughes. He would later address the UN General Assembly and denounce American aggression and imperialism. Finally, today we wish Mark de Souvero a happy birthday. He was born this day in 1933. The prolific sculptor is known for his monumental scale steel sculptures, many of which have moving elements. But in this corner of the world, we appreciate him most for establishing Socrates Sculpture Park on an abandoned landfill next to Hallett's Cove in 1986. He accomplished this with help from the local community, and it is now a verdant oasis of green, filled with art and life. Happy birthday, Mark de Souvero. And that is the Observatory, Thursday the 18th of September, 2025.